Welcome back to the 6 a.m. Club where we start our day inspired. We are already in the month of March. I just can't believe that we are approaching the very last stretch to the end of the first quarter of this year. Time flies by. This week we celebrated my son's 14th birthday, and it's so hard to believe that he's already 14. Because it seems like it was just yesterday that he was a baby. Anyways, today is Saturday. That means it's a 6 a.m. Club episode here at the Leading Yourself podcast. And what I want to do today is share a new quote with you. And let's chat about what that quote is telling us today. Here's the quote that I have for you today. It says, "No amount of self-development can make up for a lack of self-acceptance. No amount of self-development can make up for a lack of self-acceptance." I love this quote, and I know I say this all the time, but I handpick these quotes for you on Saturdays. Typically, I pick the quote that resonated the most with me that week, and this was that quote for me this week. No amount of self-development can make up for a lack of self-acceptance. Me personally, I am obsessed with self-development. You probably have already told, if you know me, if you've been listening to the podcast, this is the one thing that fills my cup. I am just obsessed with self-development. I love all forms of self-development. But, I don't know what is the right word to join these two thoughts together. I am on an ongoing journey of self-acceptance, right? I love personal development. I am obsessed with personal development, and at the same time, I am working on my self-acceptance because I know that self-development is not going to help me if I don't first work on this self-acceptance. And sometimes it's hard because we live in a world, in a society where we're constantly comparing. We're constantly trying to live up to someone else's expectations. And that makes it really, really hard to accept ourselves. Because we're constantly comparing, we're constantly trying to live up to someone else's expectations. And in the midst of all of that, a lot of times we bury our true selves under layers of limiting beliefs and stereotypes and assumptions and expectations and thoughts. And we lose ourselves in the process. It is okay to accept who you are and where you are right now in your journey, and at the same time, wanting to develop and grow and become a better version of yourself and aspire to be in a different place in the future. But here's the thing, a lot of times we see as these two things can't coexist. We invest in our personal development because we want to be someone else. We want to be better. We want to do better. And in wanting to be better and do better, we look down at ourselves. And we don't accept ourselves because we believe that there's something wrong with us because we're yet not where we want to be. And it becomes a vicious circle. But I have learned over the last few years in this journey that both can coexist together. You can love yourself, accept yourself, respect yourself for who you are today and where you are today in your journey, and at the same time be working really hard in improving aspects of yourself, in becoming a better version of yourself, in aspire to bigger things in your life, to make a bigger impact, to do things that today you're not capable of doing. They both can coexist. And it is so much easier to make progress in becoming that better version of yourself that you aspire to become. And it becomes easier to get to where you want to go when you have laid the foundation of accepting yourself. Because when you're not, then you're constantly taking one step forward and 2 steps back. Or 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It definitely slows you down in growing, in developing, in becoming that version that you aspire to become. And this is the message that I want to share with you today, because I have realized this, and I have heard it before. I have heard someone say this to me some years ago. And conceptually, I agreed and I understood. But I didn't felt it was true for me. I felt other people might be able to do that, but not me. And I pushed myself harder and harder and harder, and find myself not making as much progress as I wanted to make. And it was until I worked on self-acceptance that all of a sudden, what was hard became easier. I'm not going to say easy, but easier. It became smoother. It became a path of less resistance than what I had found before. I realized that the reason why I was feeling resistance in my journey of self-development wasn't because of anyone around me or anything outside of me. It was me creating that same resistance against myself, because I was not yet in a place where I was able to accept myself. And now looking back, I see it so clearly. I see it so clearly. If I just had started working on my self-acceptance earlier, well, we don't know what would have happened. I don't know. But I am glad I learned that lesson, because it has been a huge lesson for me to learn in this lifetime. So I want to repeat one more time our quote from today that says, "No amount of self-development can ever make up for a lack of self-acceptance." So let me ask you this to close out today's episode. Do you truly accept yourself for who you are and where you are right now in your journey? And how can you work on that self-acceptance this week? I'll probably be doing an episode sharing what I did and what worked for me, just in case you find it helpful and it works for you. Remember, it is a journey. Both self-development and self-acceptance are a journey. There is no destination in this journey. But you need to walk both journeys, or start first with self-acceptance before you start running on your path to self-development. I hope that you have an amazing weekend, an amazing week ahead. I can't wait to talk to you again here on Monday for a new episode of the Leading Yourself podcast.